welcome in. Thank you for listening to the Fade Mask. Blah.
Fade Mask. Fade Mask. No, we're rolling. We're rolling. No starting over. Fade Mask. No. The Fade Mask. The Fade Mask. What's going on, everybody?
How's everybody doing? We're a little loopy here. This is potting at night, isn't it? Well, it is for you anyway. Yeah. So the deliriousness of the day is starting to set in.
Yeah, we got a blooper reel going.
Let's bring it back because this is silly.
All right, biggest post-hype sleepers of free agency.
This might be a little obvious. There might be some others that have this same answer, but right now it's got to be Mike Davis. Falcons signed him to, it was a 2-year contract, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Falcons pick in the top 5. They have high picks in each round. They're not going to be prioritizing running back. This is a team with significant needs, an aging roster. They need to retool. So I feel like Mike Davis, this to me, like this has all the readings of like bridge running back. They signed a cheap guy to get them through maybe these next couple of years when they identify and target players in the draft at positions of, that are higher value to the NFL team. I think this is going to lead to a big opportunity for Mike Davis to have a year.
I mean, now the Falcons, hope so.
They might be in on on drafting a running back, but it's not going to.
I think they will. They'll draft a guy in the 4th round. I'm sure they will.
Okay, fine. I was going to say the 3rd, but like the 4th round, to me, that means that Mike Davis has a very good chance of having a role. At least, let's put it this way, at least until, let's say, the Falcons bye week. Right? Bye weeks are typically when we see rookies that were drafted high. If they don't come out the gate right away, that's usually when we see them take over the job, as long as they're trending in the right direction, even if the production hasn't really been there yet. So that might be a cause for concern, but right now, Davis is attached to Atlanta's a decent offense, and they chuck the ball, they move the ball. Mike Davis could be sneaky good value.
Yeah, and this is the team that airs it out. It's a passing team. The Falcons are a passing team. So if they only need to give a running back 12 to 15 touches a game in order to run the pass split that they want, even though it is Arthur Smith coming from Tennessee, where they should be implementing more run-based scheme than they have in the past. I don't know. I'm kind of torn.
His ADP right now is 144. Now that's gonna rise. Right. Until the draft, people are going to draft him with the perception of he has a chance to be the starter for even longer than what I'm suggesting, potentially for the year. So that might even out after the draft. But as of today, when you sign a running back, when you decide to commit any amount of money whatsoever to a free agent running back, he better be in your plans.
And this was a team that was super cap strapped. They had to restructure their contract with Matt Ryan in order to get under the cap, because they were, I think it was 40 mil over the cap.
Yeah, they have significant needs in a lot of different places. I think a big opportunity is in his future.
My point was that they don't have the cap space to go out and sign another running back.
Oh yeah,
the only way they're going to get another running back on the team is through the draft, and like you said, they're not going to spend up when they have so many needs all across that team, from their O-line to their defense, all across their defense. And also no quarterback of the future, which they've been rumored to possibly dip their toe into this year. So yeah, I don't see a lot of competition coming for Mike Davis. And I guess I didn't think about it too much. But you're right. He's a definite beneficiary. I was under the impression when I first saw it come over the ticker that they're gonna draft somebody. But Ito
Smith is not banging down that door.
I wasn't taking into account where they're drafting. So, yeah.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Who you got?
I'm going to go with the guy that's a little bit more high profile, but he's still not getting nearly the amount of airtime that I think he deserves. I think he's straight up disrespected in the fantasy community. Straight up.
Hot take.
Brandon Cooks.
I think a lot of people in the fantasy community understand what Cooks brings to the table.
I think one bad season that was marred with concussions and hamstring injuries somehow destroyed the perception on this guy.
Yeah, he's had a lot of concussion issues, so that always hurts. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy who had 3 1,000-yard seasons back to back with 3 different quarterbacks.
Right,
not a lot of players do that.
He had 1,150 yards and 6 touchdowns this past season as the number 2, and then coming in as the number 1 despite only playing 15 games. It's his 8th year in the league. He's had 6 1,000-yard seasons. The only times he didn't get to 1,000 yards were the aforementioned season that was marred by concussions and hamstring injuries, and his rookie season.
He's still not 30 either, right?
No, he's 27. He's young. He's 1 year younger than Devontae Adams, than DeAndre Hopkins, than
oh my God,
than Keenan Allen, than Robert Woods, and Devontae Parker. He's 1 year younger than all of those guys.
If Brandon Cooks chooses to stay in the league, and I hope he does, because I appreciate the type of player that he is, and he's able to avoid any more concussions, we're going to be talking about him in the same sense that we talk about Frank Gore right now, because it feels like he's been around forever, and he's not even 28 years old.
Well, I look at the way people think of a Mike Evans right now, and he's never going to be in the elite tier of wide receiver ones, but he's gotten, what is it now, 7 or 8 straight seasons of 1,000-yard seasons. Brandon Cooks is almost there with the exception of one season when he was injured by an uncontrollable injury, concussions, super uncontrollable. Will Fuller's gone. They brought in 3 wide receivers, the Texans. Chris Conley, Dante Moncrief, and Alex Erickson. Kiki Kuti and Randall Cobb are still there, but that's it. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, he's the big question, of course, is who's going to play quarterback.
Tyrod Taylor.
Okay, now I'm less excited about Brandon Cooks.
It's Tyrod Taylor or a rookie. I don't think Deshaun Watson is coming back and playing for this team. I think he's dug in.
Feels unlikely. I mean, I guess
Cooks is a shoe-in wide receiver 1. Even if he doesn't, people should be treating Brandon Cooks, a guy who's played with, like you said, a bunch of different quarterbacks, sustained success. We know Tyrod Taylor isn't a guy that throws a ton,
but he can throw it deep.
He can throw it deep, and I would, and if it doesn't work, he's going to have to.
That defense is awful.
They're going to swerve to the rookie they draft because there's no way they're making out of the draft without a quarterback. There's no way.
And but they also have to. They're going to have to throw. They're going to have to throw out of necessity. They're going to be losing a ton. That team's going to be bad.
Brandon Cooks is going to
bad. Yeah, he should have a pretty good season.
Yeah, and I don't know why he's so disrespected, and I kind of take it personally.
It's his ADP. Just out of curiosity.
And for what it's worth, that defense ranked 19th in the league last year in points given up, and they lost J.J. Watt in the offseason.
That's coming down.
So,
like, they're going down. That's not coming up.
They're going to throw a ton more.
Brandon Cooks' ADP is 80.5, so you can comfortably get him in the 8th round.
Yeah.
And
that's
you're talking about it.
You're getting he finished as the wide receiver 16 in total points last year. The wide receiver 15 in average points. He only played 15 games. If he gets 119 targets, which is what he got last year. Hell, looking at the numbers, if he gets 114 targets,
that's going up because Will Fuller's gone.
If he gets
that's going up.
If he gets 150,
that's going up.
He gets 114 targets, his finishes are the wide receiver 14, the wide receiver 9, the wide receiver 12, the wide receiver 13, and the wide receiver 15. When he gets 114 targets, at least. He's getting more than that. Regardless of anything, he's getting more than that, like you just said. We should be looking at him like a borderline wide receiver 1, and people aren't. And it doesn't make sense to me. Because that's what
he should be solid.
That's what he is.
Right. Yep. Been rock solid for his entire career. Who else did we have here? Well, the Ravens did exactly what they said they were going to do, which was not bring in a wide receiver. Although, I guess Sammy Watkins could still end up there.
Yeah, word on the streets is they tried to get T.Y. Hilton away from the Colts, and T.Y. signed with the Colts for a lesser deal.
T.Y. came back.
So, yeah, the Ravens have kind of struck out on the second-tier guys that we knew that they were going to be trying to attack. They've kind of missed out on all of them.
They'd at least be kicking the tires on.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going back to the well because apparently I like torture. And he burned us. He burned us bad last year, but Hollywood Brown, man, his ADP has fallen 2 full rounds from last year. He was going in the 5th. I think closer to the start of the season, the hype really started to kick in, and you were seeing him go low 4th. Now it's down to the 7th round.
Yeah, there was a ton of hype coming into the last season because he was practicing with Antonio Brown and getting tips from his relative, Antonio Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And
heard of him.
Yeah. Ton of hype. Didn't live up to it.
I mean, it didn't work out. Let's put it that way. And when I say it didn't work out, I mean he was a drop candidate by week 6 or 7. It was that bad. But he came on a little bit stronger to end the season. He actually finished in the top 24 for wide receivers, or he was at least a top 36 receiver most of the time in the second half of the season. So came on strong after an abysmal start. It wasn't strong enough where, we had talked about he had completely turned his season around. Hence the ADP, why it's in the 7th and not in the 5th. But Ravens, we just got talking. They didn't add anybody. They didn't add any names of significance.
Josh Oliver.
Yes, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is an offense built around the run game. It is a low volume passing offense, but in low volume passing offenses, as long as the offense is working, I'll take the wide receiver 1 if I don't have to spend up too much to get him. And a 7th round ADP for a wide receiver 1 who should be better than he was in the first 8 games of 2020. I like that spot. I think that's a great spot for him to bounce back and provide a good return on investment.
We have to remember, in the first 8 games of the season, the team is coming into the season with a lessened training camp and all that stuff.
I mean, sure. It didn't affect everybody at the same.
It did not affect everybody, but
he was bad. Hollywood was bad.
But they were also trying
in the
to
first 8.
Figure out that offense too, because they obviously wanted to roll with Mark Ingram, and that didn't work out. So they were kind of fumbling through the run game until about halfway through the season 2, which is their strength. And they needed to get their strength right in order to get that team starting to get the ball rolling. And I think now that they have that mess figured out, they're just going to ride it with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. I think they're going to.
They didn't give Dobbins the opportunity right away.
I think they're going to hit the ground running a little bit smoother this season.
Yeah, that's fair. Because they're not going to. Yeah,
their strength is their run game.
They're not going to mess around with Ingram, who had clearly lost a step, and you drafted Dobbins to be the guy. Now it's like, okay, it's go time.
Right.
Yeah, I think this offense will be a little bit better than they were in 2020. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were in 2019 because that was just a career year for that.
That's not happening again.
They'll be somewhere in the middle. But they'll be somewhere in the middle, which means they will be better. They're gonna tick up this year, and I think that's going to be more efficiency and more production for Hollywood. I really like him as a 7th round ADP when he is the clear number 1 wide receiver. And Mark Andrews being there obviously helps to, they play off each other. So those are the two guys in the passing attack. Mark Andrews still has the pedigree as a tight end that you draft high. That hasn't changed. But Hollywood, obviously, the feeling toward him has lessened a little bit going into this year. I think now, at his ADP, great time to grab him.
Third-year breakout. I think we could see.
Oh, yeah.
We could see a Corey Davis-like season, a 2020 Corey Davis season for him. Now, not accumulated the same way.
Not the same exact way, but as far as like
yards,
the step forward,
yeah,
the step forward,
yards, 7 touchdowns. Somebody that you're happy to have as a wide receiver 3, and that you can play most weeks without having to worry about it, even though he's going to come by those points in a more boomer bust fashion.
Yeah. Wide receiver 3 with some wide receiver 2 weeks with 1 or 2 slate busting wide receiver 1 weeks. Could be a dud in there or two, but you take that with what he can give you in the 7th round. We got one more?
I got one more guy? And he kind of mirrors the guy to a lesser extent, though. But the guy that you just brought up, and that's Bryan Edwards.
You love Bryan Edwards. I mean, a lot of people loved Bryan Edwards going into the season.
I was hyped. I bought into the hype.
He was a darling.
And then I was super disappointed. And I was completely off the train until I saw what has occurred in the Raiders organization in the past three weeks.
Yeah.
Here's my case for Bryan Edwards.
His opportunity is right in front of him.
Youngest breakout age ever recorded, if you're into stats like that, at 17.8. He was compared to Devontae Adams by his quarterback who played with him in college and all that, and that was part of the hype that I bought into last season. His best comparable on Player Profiler, if you went out and look on Player Profile right now, is Corey Davis. Ironically, a guy that I brought up for the pass guy.
Some bigger body,
he
physical.
Ran 20 routes in the first 2 weeks and then never ran more than 14 after week 2. That usage last year doesn't make sense. But Nelson Aguilar, their number 1 wide receiver, left in free agency, vacating that spot, and 82 targets that went with it. So that should be Edwards' spot now. The Raiders signed John Brown.
Tyrell Williams.
The Raiders signed,
he's also gone.
Right, the Raiders signed John Brown, but he's more of a Ruggs replacement if you look at his body of work than an Aguilar replacement. So I think that's going to eat more into Ruggs than it is into Edwards. The Raiders gutted their O-line. We've talked about it in the past quite a bit. But that's less time for Carr to throw, less time for wrong routes to open up downfield, which means more opportunities for Edwards than for Ruggs or Brown. Because the routes that Ruggs and Brown run are going to be the routes that take more time to...
They're similar.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, we always know that Waller will be the de facto wide receiver 1 as a tight end in that offense. But Edwards could be a wide receiver 3 as the quote-unquote wide receiver 1 in that offense, even though we know all those targets are going to go to Waller. And for what it's worth, Waller is turning 29 this season. So.
Okay.
I just think the arrow is pointing up for him. I don't know how much.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity is certainly there, but I would just say my one concern is I'm not sure as far as offense goes who has worse vibes post-free agency than the Raiders, right? The offensive line, we already talked about, they tore down the offensive line. It feels like a mishmash, hodgepodge group of skill position players. They signed Kenyon Drake, and now they have a ton of money and combined with Josh Jacobs' draft capital, there's a ton in that backfield. They said Kenyon Drake might play some receiver. I'm not sure how much I buy into that.
We hear that
and now
all the time
have
from a lot of guys. That's coach speak.
It feels like coach speak. But now you have 3 guys, or at least 2 with Ruggs and John Brown, to your point, who are very similar. So, will Edwards play the slot? Will Ruggs go into the slot? And they'll move Bryan Edwards outside because he profiles as more as a bigger player, as an ex-receiver. Because, John Brown has proven he can do that, but he's older now. Coming in, again, to a new system. And a quarterback downgrade. So, that's my one concern. There are going to be a lot of weeks where Edwards is, between Jacobs, between Waller, and then they haven't given up on Ruggs yet, although their signings are puzzling to me as it pertains to his future. There are going to be weeks where Bryan Edwards is going to, what we're hoping for is, at best case scenario, him being the third option. If you account for Josh Jacobs, as far as just overall body of work.
Well, I look at the only running 20 pass routes in the first 2 weeks. That's going to go up. The team ran 50 offensive plays every game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he should be on the field.
My only point, my point being here is he's going to get a ton more opportunity, and he doesn't have a lot of competition when it comes to the other pass catchers in this offense. And the team's going to be bad, so they're going to be throwing a lot deep into the fourth quarter. So there's a road to Bryan Edwards getting the same type of production that Nelson Aguilar got.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying here. That's my point. I'm not saying you should be drafting him as a wide receiver 2 or anything. I'm just saying.
Oh no!
If we look at what Nelson Aguilar did last season, he can replicate that.
Okay, fair enough. And his ADP is so dirt cheap, you can get him for free. You can absolutely, to that point, I would say draft him in the 18th round in best ball.
Boom. Yeah, perfect pick there because people are lower on him than they should be based off of what happened last season, and their off season has done nothing but throw water on them.
This feels like a true kind of what, this feels like a true kind of prove it year for, it's almost like for Gruden and Carr. It's like, okay, third year in the system, you have clearly made this your offense, Gruden, based around your philosophy and your scheme and what you wanted to do. Now it's go time because the Raiders have underperformed relative to what I think whatever even their modest expectations might have been. Now it's go time. So, does that boost their performance a little bit?
Mayock-Gruden marriage is just like the two really dumb ideas that multiply each other when they get around each other. Because you got a TV personality that everybody thinks is kind of a joke anyway when the draft came around, and Mike Mayock. It was always like, oh, what's Mike Mayock going to say? Haha, he's probably going to be wrong. And then you got John Gruden, who you've talked a ton about. The game has just passed him by while he was broadcasting, and he has no place in the modern NFL. And it's just two bad ideas squashed together.
It's hodgepodge. That's my concern with the Raiders. But that being said, sure, Bryan Edwards isn't going to hurt you if you spend your last pick on him in a best ball. So, yeah. So that's what we got. Mike Davis, Hollywood Brown, Bryan Edwards,
Brandon
Cooks. Decent values that you could be able to take a flyer on. These are all excellent names also for best ball because they're high. We named 3 high variance wide receivers where you don't have to predict their boom bust weeks, and a running back with an ADP after 120.
Perfect.
The risk in all of these guys is incredibly low,
and the reward
take advantage
is pretty high.
Right. So take advantage. Tell us what you guys think in the comment section, whether you agree or disagree. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in.